My best friend stood on a wooden crate in front of 40 strangers, held up a glass of cheap wine, pointed straight at me, and said, "That's the one that got away." 9 years of friendship, and she picked a room full of strangers to say the one sentence she'd never said to my face. I'm Owen Hale, 31, an architect, and I have spent almost a decade being very, very good at not noticing things I clearly should have noticed. Maya Reyes has called me a lot of things since we met. Her emergency contact, her +1, her moving day free labor. Never once, in 9 years, the one that got away. Until the night of her first solo gallery show, when she ran out of better lies and told the truth instead, live, on a crate, in front of her entire family. Let me back up, because you need to understand exactly how long this had been sitting there before it finally cracked open. Maya and I met in a college studio class. She spilled an entire coffee across my final project the night before it was due, looked at the wreckage, and said, "Honestly, this is an improvement." I should have hated her. Instead, we rebuilt both our projects until 4 a.m., and by sunrise, we were something with no name yet. Maya doesn't do quiet. She fills every silence before it has time to breathe. She once told a stranger at a bus stop his shoes were committing a crime against the concept of effort. So when she stood up on that crate and let a silence sit there, unfilled, for a full 3 seconds before she spoke, I knew something in her had broken loose before she meant it to. 2 years. She'd been building toward this show. Held. Portraits of hands. Her mother kneading dough. A stranger catching rain. And mine? My hand on a porch railing. Some backyard barbecue 2 summers back. Lit gold by a sunset I don't even remember standing in. She never told me she'd used that photo. I found out when I saw it hanging 3 feet wide on the gallery wall. "You didn't tell me you were putting that up," I said. "I didn't tell you a lot of things," Maya said. At the time, I filed that under artist being cryptic. That was mistake number 1. The gallery was packed. Exposed brick, wine that tasted like an apology. Maya's parents flown in from Sacramento, her roommate Priya 3 glasses deep already. And near the drinks table, a man in a blazer that fit too well, watching Maya work the room like he was pricing something. Grant Osei, her assistant Delphine, told me. Gallery owner. Rumor says he wants to represent her exclusively. Rumor also says he wants to date her exclusively. That part's just my professional opinion. I watched Maya laugh at something he said. I watched him touch her arm like he already owned the rights to it. "You're doing the face," Delphine said. "I don't have a face. You have several." That's the "I have opinions, I refuse to state" one. I didn't have opinions. For 9 years the rule was simple. Maya dates people, I date people, we show up for each other's disasters, we mock them later over tacos. The rule worked. The rule stopped working the second she climbed onto that crate. "This piece," she said, gesturing at my photo without looking away from me. "Someone asked me about it earlier and I gave a bad answer. I want to give a better one." She found me in the crowd. She always finds me first, 9 years of finding me first, and said it. It's the hand of the one that got away. I don't know why I'm telling a room full of strangers that, except tonight apparently, I'm out of better lies. Silence. Real silence. Her mother went very still. Priya's hand flew to her mouth, and I stood there holding a plastic cup of terrible wine, while my best friend detonated 9 years in 1 sentence, and then calmly climbed down to talk about lighting technique with a stranger. I left 20 minutes later. Told myself it was an early site visit. Lie. I left because for the first time in 9 years, I needed to be somewhere Maya couldn't find me, and that terrified me more than anything she'd said. She texted at 11:47 p.m. "Are you mad?" "Why would I be mad?" I typed back, which was its own kind of lie. "Because I said a thing." "You say a lot of things, Owen." I typed. "Did you mean it?" Stared at it, deleted it, typed it again, deleted it again. Some questions you can't take back once someone reads them. Instead, I sent, "Get some sleep, we'll talk tomorrow." She didn't answer. For Maya, that silence was its own answer. We didn't talk for 3 days. 3 days, in 9 years, had never happened. Not even the summer she moved for an internship. Not even the 2 weeks she dated a guy who tried to phase me out. I filled the silence with 16-hour workdays and told myself I wasn't thinking about it. I was thinking about nothing else. On day 4, she showed up at my door with a paper bag of tacos from the place we've gone to since studio class, looking like she hadn't slept any better than I had. "I come bearing bribes," she said. "That's not a bribe if I was letting you in anyway. I wasn't sure you were." Quiet. No speed to it. That scared me more than the crate had. We sat on my couch. She didn't touch the tacos, which from Maya is basically a 5-alarm fire. "I need you to let me finish before you say anything," she said, "or I'll lose my nerve and start talking about lens apertures instead." Go. "I've been in love with you for 4 years, maybe longer. I've been doing the math for 3 days, and I can't find the exact date, which scares me more than the feeling itself, because it means it was never a moment. It was just always there, under everything. I dated people who weren't you specifically so I wouldn't have to look at it directly. It worked. Until I had to write an artist's statement about a photo of your hand and realized I didn't have one that wasn't a love letter. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. And then I stood up and said the true thing instead of the practiced one, and I regret nothing except doing it in front of Grant Osei's cologne, which is a genuine crime scene. "It really is a lot of cologne," I managed. "Say something, Owen. I'm out of nerve. Here's the part I want you to actually sit with." I had a sensible version of myself ready. The one who says, "Let's not ruin what we have." The one who'd talked himself out of this exact feeling 100 times, usually right after Maya said something that landed too close to my ribs. That version didn't show up. "4 years is generous," I said. "I've been in love with you since the coffee. I just didn't have a word for it. So I called it best friend for 8.5 years, because it was safer to be your emergency contact than risk being nothing to you at all." Maya, who fills every silence before it can breathe, went completely quiet. "Since the coffee," she repeated. "That's 9 years, Owen. I've been living inside it. You never said anything. You slow danced with a guy named Chad who owned a boat at your cousin's wedding." What was I supposed to say? Chad was a mistake. Chad was informative. He told me exactly where I stood, available for emergencies, not for slow dances. She laughed, cracked in the middle, and then she was crying, which Maya does approximately never, and my arms were around her before I'd decided to move them. "I ruined my own gallery opening," she said into my shoulder. "You elevated it. Grant Osei is going to tell that story for years." The night the photographer confessed from a crate. "Incredible branding." "Shut up," she said, laughing and crying at once. And I'd heard that exact sound maybe 3 times in 9 years and never understood it until right then. "Make me," I said. She looked up. 9 years compressed into 4 inches of space. Neither of us reached for a joke this time. "If I kiss you right now," she said, "we don't get to go back to just best friends. I need you to know that first. Maya, I've spent an entire career designing things that don't collapse under their own weight, and somehow never once applied it to my own life. I don't want it back." She kissed me. No music swelling, no cinema, just 2 people who'd circled the same thing for 9 years finally landing on it. "For the record," she said, after, forehead against mine, Grant asked me to dinner at the gallery. Before the crate. "I need you to never say his name again." I said no. I was mid-collapse about you. Terrible timing on his part. Devastating for him. The tacos were cold. We ate them anyway, her feet in my lap like they'd been there 1,000 times, because in every way that counted, they had. 2 days later, Maya's mother called. On speaker. No warning. Because subtlety has never once been a Reyes family trait. "Maya Elena," her mother said, deploying the full name like a weapon. "You stood on a box at your own art show and confessed your feelings in front of the entire Sacramento contingent, several of whom called me before I got home. I'm aware, Mom, your Tia Rosa thinks it was romantic. I think it's about time. I have watched that boy carry your groceries and your heartbreak for nearly a decade and stopped believing it was platonic around year 3. I put my face in my hands. Maya grinned, delighted. Take care of my daughter's fragile ego, her mother told me. It's smaller than her actual ego, which is enormous, but the fragile one bruises easier. I heard that, Maya said. You were meant to. That should have been the end of the drama. Grant Osei had other plans. He called twice that week about gallery logistics, both calls circling back to dinner. Third call, I was sitting right there, watching Maya's jaw tighten the way it does right before something efficient and final leaves her mouth. Grant, she said, I appreciate the interest in the show. I don't appreciate the interest in me, which I understand a lot more clearly now than I did 2 weeks ago. Keep it professional, or don't keep it at all. Long pause. Understood, he said, filing it away as a story about his own graciousness. For what it's worth, 3 pieces sold this week. Which ones? He named them. Mine wasn't one of them. That one's not for sale, Maya said, before he'd finished the sentence. It's generated the most interest of the whole show. It's not for sale, Grant. She hung up. I should have said that up front. Which part? Both parts? No fast talk, no joke to hide behind. Just certain. Her parents threw a dinner to celebrate the show. Though everyone understood the real agenda, the second Tia Rosa arrived, holding a card that said finally in glitter gel pen. Tio Beto cornered me by the drinks table to ask, with total sincerity, whether I intended to make an honest woman of Maya. My intentions are extensive, I told him. That's not an answer, Owen, Maya said, appearing at my elbow, slipping her hand into mine like she'd done it for years instead of weeks. Later, walking to the car, she stopped under a streetlight, the kind of stop that means something's coming, and said, I keep thinking about the photo. The hand? I told myself it was about the light. Golden hour, good composition. But I went back through the contact sheet from that day. 200 photos, I kept 12. Every single one has you in it, even the ones that weren't supposed to. She looked at me. I've been photographing you for 2 years, calling it an accident. It was never an accident. Marry me eventually, I said, and it surprised us both, because it came out sounding a lot less like a joke than I meant it to. Maya went still under that streetlight. That's not a proposal. That's an eventually. A preliminary filing, I said. Useful before major decisions. Ask me again someday, properly, with a ring and less commentary about my uncle's interrogation technique. Deal. Eventually she agreed and kissed me like it was the most ordinary thing in the world, which, after 9 years, it finally was. 8 months later, Maya's second show opened 2 blocks from the first. Her choice this time, not Grant's, who, to his credit, sent a genuinely gracious card when he heard she'd signed elsewhere. This show was called Kept. No strangers' hands, just ours. Hers doing dishes, mine on a steering wheel, both tangled together on a hospital waiting room chair the night her father had a scare that turned out fine. Center wall, biggest frame in the room. Me asleep on my own couch, her hand resting against my chest. Both of us lit gold by a lamp instead of a sunset. Placard underneath, 4 words. Held, eventually. You said that under a streetlight 8 months ago, Maya said, finding me in front of it the way she always finds me. I've been sitting on it, waiting for the right wall. I didn't have a ring on me. I want to be honest about that. The messy version matters more than the tidy one. But I had the question I'd been carrying since spring, and I asked it right there, in front of that photograph, in a room, slowly filling with people who loved her. Properly, this time. Marry me, Maya, not eventually. Now, or as close to now as a courthouse calendar allows. She looked at the photo of us, then at me, and for once, her fast-talking, fill every silent self went quiet the way it only ever did for the things that mattered most. Yes. Obviously. I've been saying yes since the coffee. You were just too slow to notice, I noticed. I had a system. Your system had a 9-year delay. Decommissioned. Effective immediately. We got married that spring in her parents' backyard. Under lights, her father insisted on hanging himself despite everyone's objections. Tio Beto's toast still somehow included finally. An honest man, which has since become a full family catchphrase. Grant Osei sent a card that said, simply, well played. Maya filed it under a folder labeled, in her handwriting, evidence everyone else saw it before we did. We hung the porch railing photo in our own front hallway. The first thing you see walking in. My hand, lit gold, 3 feet wide. No longer evidence of something unsaid, just a record of the exact moment, 2 summers before either of us knew it yet, that the whole story had already, quietly, begun. Sometimes the one that got away never actually left. Sometimes they're standing right next to you the entire time, carrying your groceries and your heartbreak, showing up at 2 a.m. after every funeral, and you spend 9 years calling them your best friend because it's the only word brave enough to fit in your mouth. Until somebody finally climbs up on a crate and says the real one out loud. What would you have done if your best friend introduced you to a room full of strangers as the one that got away? Tell me in the comments. If you liked this one, hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.